Harriet Tubman was a very important person in American history. She was born into slavery, which means she was forced to work for other people without pay. As a child, she was treated very badly, getting beaten and hurt by the people who enslaved her. When she was older, she managed to escape from slavery and go to a place where she could be free. But instead of just staying safe, she went back to the dangerous place where she used to be a slave to help other people escape too. She made many secret trips to rescue around 70 people, including her own family and friends. She did this by using a secret network of people who were against slavery, and they helped her by giving her shelter and guidance. This secret network was called the Underground Railroad. During the American Civil War, she worked as a spy and scout for the Union Army, helping them in their fight. She was very brave and even led a mission that freed over 700 enslaved people. After the war, she continued to be active in the fight for women's rights, which means she worked to make sure women had the same rights as men. She became a symbol of courage and freedom and is remembered as a hero in American history. A long time ago, there was a promise made to Harriet Tubman's father. This promise said that when he turned 45 years old, he would be set free from slavery. After the man who made this promise passed away, his son kept that promise in the year 1840. So, Harriet Tubman's father was no longer a slave, but he continued to work for the same family. In the 1840s, Harriet paid a white lawyer $5 to look into the legal status of her mother, named Rit. The lawyer found an important document written by Atho Patterson, who was related to the family that owned them. This document said that Rit and her children should be freed when she turned 45, and any children born after that would also be free. But the Patterson and Broaddus families, who owned Harriet's family, didn't follow this rule even though it was written down. Harriet wanted to take legal action to make them follow this rule, but it was very difficult, so she couldn't do it. Around 1844, Harriet got married to a man named John Tubman. John was a free black man, which meant he wasn't a slave. But because Harriet was still enslaved, any children they had would also be slaves. It was common for free people like John to marry enslaved people like Harriet in that area. After her marriage, Harriet changed her name from Araminta to Harriet. It's not exactly clear when she did this, but some say it was right after the wedding. She might have changed her name because of her religious beliefs or to honor a family member. In 1849, Harriet Tubman got sick, and because of that, people who enslaved others thought she was not as valuable to them anymore. The man who owned her, Edward Broaddus, tried to sell her to someone else, but nobody wanted to buy her. Harriet was very upset with him for trying to sell her and for keeping her family enslaved. So, Harriet began praying to God. At first, she prayed for her owner to change and treat her better, but when it seemed like he was going to sell her, she changed her prayer. She asked God to either change her owner's heart or take him away. About a week later, Edward Broaddus passed away, and Harriet felt bad for her earlier prayers. After her owner's death, there was a chance that she and her family might be sold and separated. His widow, Eliza, started working to sell the enslaved people in the family. But Harriet didn't want to wait for them to decide her fate. She believed she had the right to be free, and she was determined to achieve it, even if it meant risking her life. Harriet, along with her brothers Ben and Henry, escaped from slavery on September 17, 1849. They were working for a man named Anthony Thompson, who owned a big farm in a place called Poplar Neck. Eliza Broaddus, their owner's widow, didn't realize they were gone right away because they were hired out to work for someone else. But after 2 weeks, she put out a notice in the newspaper offering a reward for their capture. Her brothers, Ben and Henry, had second thoughts and went back to the farm, which forced Harriet to return with them. However, she didn't give up. She escaped again in October or November, but this time she was alone. Before leaving, she sang a song that hinted at her plan, hoping a fellow enslaved person named Mary would understand. The song said, "I'll meet you in the morning. I'm bound for the promised land." Harriet used the Underground Railroad to escape. It wasn't an actual train but a network of people who helped enslaved people escape to freedom. She had to travel at night, guided by the North Star, to avoid being caught by people looking for runaway slaves. Along the way, she got help from kind people who hid her in their homes and guided her to the next safe place. Her journey was long and dangerous, but she finally made it to Pennsylvania, where she felt relieved and amazed to be free.